hopefully we can give you so that you can make an informed decision to get involved or not with this amazing opportunity which we're going to present you tonight. So Ryan, welcome to the call, and tell us a little bit about, of course, about you and the problem and the opportunity in space, and why, of course, you have created that STORH token, and why do you think the time is right now, and of course, what is in store for the people listening?
Thanks for having me on, Claudia. Hi, Bill. How are you? Always a pleasure to be involved in these, and we try to cover some different information on each one of these calls here. But so why STORH? Why now? It's a handful of things. I think it's, technology has moved in such a direction to where the opportunity in the energy space and this technology have really crossed, right? So blockchain offers many things. We are simply leveraging it as a financial instrument to essentially tokenize an investment, tokenize equity and ownership and energy and natural resource assets that are all going to be recorded on the blockchain, are going to be exchangeable on the blockchain and other exchanges. But from a macro perspective, the problem's large, right? Population's growing exponentially. The size of the historical size of these natural resource deposits and our ability to find them has shrunk over time, and so thus the demand should increase and the supply should shrink for these natural resources. And I think the advent of tokenization and the changes that are going on in the energy space today with respect to our shift from sort of legacy assets, and that be hydrocarbon-based resources, to more sustainable technology. I think now is a fantastic time to take advantage of that and get involved in the industry. And we're sort of bridging the gap. We're bridging that and providing a balanced portfolio and a market volatility resistant token or investment. One of the reasons why we've structured STORH the way we have, it's to provide longevity, right? And to provide as much high growth and opportunity without exposing our investors and token holders to a lot of risk. You'll see that when we roll through the strategy in a minute, but essentially we've designed this to be not only a secure and safe storage of value, but also one that'll have high growth in the near term. With this particular technology and tokenization, we're at the forefront of a new era. Not only from what supports the token and the Ethereum blockchain and what blockchain can do, but also from an energy perspective. And I mentioned this before. We're now looking at ways, because sustainable technology is now becoming more efficient, but not only are we looking at sustainable technology for energy production, we're also looking at sustainable technology to fix environmental issues and to solve problems with water and the supply of water. So, yeah, and you'll see that as we roll through here. But to kind of go through our risk strategy, as I mentioned before, how do we provide that solid base and that lower risk profile for investors? We build a solid foundation, just like the key to any building has a solid foundation. Before you spend all the money on the things that go on top of the foundation, you build a solid one. And we do that through oil, natural gas, and liquids production. Well, what's liquids? Well, when you produce natural gas in a lot of areas, you also produce a lot of natural gas liquids. Those things are just a byproduct of producing and processing that. But so some of the assets that we already have and we're very close to closing on will provide that solid foundation for 20 plus years of consistent cash flow. And these are assets, some of which have been around for 70 years producing. So very world-class energy assets. The second piece would be the supply chain. So that's minerals, midstream, anything before and after the production of minerals, and then of course sustainable technology. The oil and gas liquid piece I just touched on. One of the assets, and I'll just give you just kind of a brief history on it. It was an old Humble field. It was operated eventually by Exxon. It's been acquired. The guys that we have that are running it today have been running it since 2003. There are 2 sellers in the field just getting up in age, and some of the existing holders are increasing their their interest. I've been tracking this since the public company days. So for about 7 or 8 years, I've been watching this asset, trying to find an entry point. And it's just very fortuitous how the timing of STORH landed with respect to the opening of some interest in this field. Like I said, it's been producing for 70 years, low concentration risk. It produces out of 90 wells. It'll be around for a long time. And so the midstream side, we talk a lot about this, is kind of providing that core, that midterm growth for the fund. One of the things that we're looking at is around natural gas. I think natural gas has a tremendous future because it's becoming more fungible around the world as we begin to liquefy it and can now transport it, because there are other parts of the world where natural gas is 4 or 5 times more expensive than it is here in the U.S. And in the United States, we have more natural gas than probably anywhere in the world, at least that we know of. So one of our core strategies is to buy the minerals and own the minerals, so you're not subject to market conditions. Some of the other major pieces that are very near term, and we're very close to closing on as well, are around the midstream space. So Randall Eddington will run that division. He's been in the industry 10 years. We'd be blending crude, we'd be buying crude, we'd be making our own markets on that side that happens right after you produce and before the crude oil or natural gas is actually processed or consumed. So we'd fill that gap, essentially being a vertically integrated energy company and covering parts of the supply chain so we can increase our margins. The third and sort of part of our long-term high growth strategy is all around sustainable technology, right? So that is having technology today that solves energy problems, but also can solve environmental problems and provide services to even some of our legacy businesses. Like oil and gas today is mostly extracted from resource plays, which are done from horizontal wells that require 60 to 80,000 barrels of water per well. So where are we going to get that water from? One of our assets that we're looking at is how do we reclaim that water that's already been produced and clean it and put it back into the field, so we're not taking water from our aquifers or streams or rivers. So it's that protection of fresh water. One of the other large assets that we have is a project in Peru, which will, as I've mentioned before, I think will dwarf everything else that we've got. Essentially applying a technology that already exists today. It's a way to inject oxygen into the reactors to process these chemicals that are needed to extract the minerals, which was not done in the past. And this is a huge problem. This is not just a very isolated event. This is a play that's 50 miles wide by 200 miles long. And it'll be a project that we'll be working on for decades to come and long after I'm out of this project. We have some experts already on our board that know the project, that have been involved in it, and that are here to execute. And very simply put, and this is a great slide, very, very simple slide. Of course, we can go into more detail later, but this will show you our anticipated growth strategy for the company and the various rounds in which we're going to be raising capital and the price of the token as it begins to increase in value. And then, of course, on the right-hand side, our estimated net asset value for the company. Sometime within the next 12 months, we plan on listing on an exchange. And again, we're researching multiple exchanges now that already exist that can manage equity or security-backed tokens. So our initial target range for that listing would be around $4 or €4, give or take, within that 12 months period of time. And so this gives you kind of a snapshot on what we see internally as our targets and our objective for this token over the next 12 months. And of course, as I mentioned before, we'll probably end up releasing multiple STORH tokens kind of in succession. So as we begin to list one on the exchange so people can monetize and we can liquidate some of the earnings, we'll have another STORH token which will be backed by another group of assets to follow that. So we've done a full pro forma outlook on these. Some of these assets have certified reserve studies done by petroleum engineers, have actually been stamped and are bankable reserve studies. But yeah, this is a far cry from 2017 and 18 where guys said, oh, we've got this great plan, we need to raise $100 million. And I think some of the questions should have been asked early on. Have you ever done this before? or is this the first time that you've executed on a project like this? Because it's really shameful how much money was spent on those projects that we'll never see back. But no, there's a full budget, time frame, and financial forecast based on every dollar that we look to spend here in this project. Some of these projects, like the Peru project, will take a little bit more time, of course, because we do have to deploy, machinery and people and teams. But that's a far cry from I've got a gold mine and invest in it, and we're going to go put it into production. It takes years. So, so we encourage you to get involved. Please download and read the white paper, and send us any questions directly or through the person who introduced you, and look forward to having you on as a token holder. No, that's it. Brilliant. No, I think we're at the crossroads of a fantastic opportunity. Early timing certainly has an advantage, and we have a lot of news to come out over the next few months. So please get involved now, and we look forward to having you on board.